Well, hello and welcome to NXT Halloween Havoc Fallout. It is I, Ed Fries, joined by the natural Astrid Pizarro. We were supposed to have a special guest tonight because Cody is out on assignment. Unfortunately, our big money guest, the money we stole from Between Two Beards to pay for our guest, unfortunately, things fell through. So we will have our big money guest at another time. So we will fix that another time. But unfortunately, tonight it's just me and Astrid. Unless we get a run in, we'll see who comes running in, and maybe
Do
we'll
we
do.
get a refund or a discount or something for next time?
The guest told me it's a make do. They're just going to make it up on the back end. There was some travel arrangements and things like that. You know, COVID travel just makes it so difficult. But that being said, we have an absolutely amazing episode of NXT 2.0. Halloween Havoc delivered. Astrid, if this is how they go forward with big shows like this instead of takeovers, are you going to be okay with that?
Yeah, I love that it has a theme to it, and that's what attracted everybody towards this special of NXT tonight. But if you're gonna have all these championship matches and like a theme to the show, I'm all for it. I'm like, that was really good. There was nothing like that left me like this was bad. And they kept me hooked so much through night tonight that I barely had notes for the matches because I was so concentrated on the wrestling they had tonight. It was that good.
And the ironic thing is they didn't have a ton of segments on top of the four matches that they had. We had two segments of the haunted house, which we'll definitely get to. We had two party segments, which we'll definitely get to. We had a couple promos. We had some things inside the ring with Grayson Waller and outside the ring with Grayson Waller. We had a debut. We had a return. And we also had one additional match. But everything felt like it had time. Nothing was rushed tonight. Every announced match that they had felt like it had just the right amount of time. Could it have gone a little longer? Maybe, but it didn't hurt the match. Nothing was rushed. And that's the key to tonight's show.
And I want to point out, like we had like Chucky I was not expecting it to go as well as it did either, which is another thing for me. I'm like, I love horror, I love Chucky, and this was, it was a good combination for me. So
I'll be honest, I'm not a horror fan. I never was. I didn't grow up watching them. I was not allowed to watch Chucky of all of them. I was barred from watching Chucky because it's the creepy doll, and my mother didn't even want me watching that. But no, I thought like he was a really good piece of like promo add to the show. Like it didn't take away. All of his segments were really, really quick. The voice actor was really cool with it, and they all added to the little pieces he was adding to the match. That being said, there's a lot of great stuff to go over tonight. What's your pick? What's the biggest thing that stood out to you tonight besides 2.0 completely revitalizing NXT? Because we'll get to that idea as a concept in a little while. But which match or segments stood out to you as the best of the night?
I think I'm gonna cheat a little bit and just say like all the ladies stole the show tonight. I feel like the ladies matches were exactly what they needed to be, and not only obviously the wheel that they decided to implement in the matches, the action itself, and obviously the return that we got in one of the matches. I feel like it was all really good. I think the women's really stole the show tonight.
All right, so let's go ahead and let's jump into that. Let's talk about toxic attraction. Let's talk about the golden attraction that is toxic attraction. We start with the three-way ladder match. This thing was really interesting. The one thing I'll say about this match is there were a couple of rough spots. A couple of the girls had planned spots and they didn't quite go right. There was a power bomb on the ladder with JG Dolan taking the bump where she landed on the wrong part of the ladder and the whole ladder tipped as she was landing on it. That didn't look pretty fun. There was a 450 splash from Zoe Stark where she landed on her feet by accident. That didn't look fun to take for Persia after she decided she was no longer going to stay on her feet. And then, of course, there was the spot at the end of the match. The one that everybody's going to be talking about, Io's bad ride. That being said, wow, what a ladder match. I'm going to let you talk about it from here on out. But
Yeah, I was surprised that they didn't give us entrances for everybody. So I was really surprised. I was like, oh, the champions are off first, and then I realized on the ring that they're actually the last ones in. Um, Obviously that EO spot was something I can't really forget about so soon like that. And one thing I did like is I feel like they highlighted Persia a lot during this match. Like they gave her a lot of like spots here and there. And I like how they showcased her during this match because we haven't seen much of her compared to the other ladies. So it was nice to see her getting involved. And obviously from the beginning, having both of the teams going over Toxic Attraction because they didn't want them to win. But obviously that didn't end up happening. I'm like, I liked how they ended up being the champions because I was obviously, as you and I had said before, we were already done with Zoe and Io, so it was about time that we had new champions. And I'm so glad it was Toxic Attraction. But I like it because it gives us the route that they can go have a rematch with Io and Zoe, and they can have the next match with Persia and Indy as well. So it'll give us a little bit of everything for next time.
So I was on the wrong thing, so I didn't get to see that we had chat messages. So I'm going to get to them right now as we go. We got Cody in here talking about he'll be back next week. I'm very excited for Cody to be back. Pluggo in here with all the emotes saying that Astrid Week continues. It does. Astrid Week never stops. This is Astrid year. Dar Amazing jumping in. Dar Amazing was in the Tom stream at the very end. Not the very end, but thank you for jumping in. Cody saying Pluggo just blew the entire emoji budget. Of course, we know that is what Pluggo does. Pluggo does blow budgets better than anybody. Astrid, well, before I go into giving my thoughts, how would you rate the show?
Oh my word! I mean, if we do it out of 5 stars, I will get it the whole 5 stars because the action was incredible tonight. Everything was really well done. Obviously, the only thing I wasn't a fan of was the main event result, but that will be when we get there.
Yeah, we'll get there when we get there. You know, that's we couldn't afford Cody to. No, we can always afford Cody. If I have to take a pay cut for it, we'll always afford Cody. Cody will always be available, budget in line. The EO spot on the ladder was harsh. So that spot was interesting, and I'm going to keep going through some comments. Dara says 7.5 out of 10. Interesting. I'm going to be interested to see which matches you thought were a little bit down on that because I want to. That's an interesting. I would have given it about a 9 out of 10. I really thought this was a home run type of show for putting, not so much for the matches, but for putting 2.0 on the map. I think that's what this did more than anything. Cody says, I think that they highlighted Persian. They did. They as Astrid said, and like Cody says here, they entirely highlighted Persia as the person who really, really got that shining example. And that was good. We can always afford having Dara Amazing here. And Cody's at about an 8.75, which again, right, roughly about where the rest of us are. Mm-hmm. My thoughts on this ladder match was it was a fantastic. I think EO wanted to be one more rung up on that ladder when Indy pushed it over, and that's what happened there. Her poor face. That did not look fun at all. But I will say that I loved how the first 30 minutes were commercial free, and this match really, really benefited from it. The picture-in-picture throughout the whole show was nice. When it was wrestling going on, we got picture-in-picture. When they went to break between segments, we didn't. That was a really good idea by them. It really helped keep me somewhat involved in some of those matches that went to commercial break when I normally look away, even when they do the picture-in-picture. But Gigi and JC get the win. So much good stuff from there. Cody telling us that he doesn't get the picture-in-picture. Poor Cody.
That's interesting.
And Tim coming in saying that the show was great and he's looking forward to the next one. I agree. This show was really, really good. But yes, we got new champions. We needed new champions as much as Cody loves Io and Zoe. I couldn't wait for them to lose the titles and for something else. There is still enough tag teams in this women's division with Frankie and Jessie Kamea, with Casey and KC, with Indy and Persia still out there. There's 3 at least right off the top of my head that I know are still out there for these tag titles. So there's still more to develop within all these teams. So if you break Io and Zoe up, you still have room to grow. We then move on to what I'm going to say is my match of the night, which happens to be the next segment. because mine isn't a match. As much as I want to talk about the tag title match, as much as I want to talk about the women's championship match, it would have been fun if Casey and Casey were in that ladder match as a 4-way. I think they were the on standby if JC Jane couldn't go and they pulled Toxic Attraction. That I think would have been the standby move. I would love to see them pushed as, and Tim says, I want Toxic Attraction to be pushed as dominantly as Undisputed. I agree, and they're already there. They've already got all the female titles. It's all right, Dara. We got you. That being said, like I said, my segment of the night, it isn't a match. It's the haunted house. It's Carmelo Hayes. Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams dressed up in their best Tupac. Shh. Our special guest wasn't able to make it. Shh. Do you think Dakota helping them could mean Dakota joins Toxic Attraction? That's an interesting question. We will bring that up as we get back around to the women's title match, because with Dakota coming back and as the return, I think it could be interesting to see what she does going forward. I don't think she fits in the group. It looks like Dara agrees. Not really. Ashley, what do you think? Do you think Dakota fits in with Toxic Attraction?
I feel like she does and she doesn't, but I wouldn't want to see her in the group. I really just want to see her by herself, like for once. Keep her by herself and obviously have this rivalry with Raquel, which will be obviously another one without a championship, which I'm good with because I love seeing other women having this rivalries without having a title involved as well. So I think that'll be interesting seeing the next steps when she faces Raquel and what kind of match do they get as well. So that'll be something I'm looking forward to. They started next week or not?
Yeah. But again, I'm going back to my two Tupac boys, Trick Williams and Carmelo Hayes, dressed in the best Tupac. Trick Williams wanted no part of going in this haunted house. It was real noticeable, real quick. Hayes gets out of the car and he's trying to con Trick out of the car, and Trick's like, no, I'll be the getaway driver. They finally start going through the haunted house, and we get our first look at Johnny and Dexter, and Johnny's dressed just like Dexter, which was so cute and adorable. I didn't know they made Dexter's clothes in children's sizes, which we'll get to shortly, because they start going through, and Johnny makes the joke that he went ahead and got all the cameras set up. And Dexter gives him a look. He's like, no, I had help. Out pops the zombie referee. Great lineage to last year with having the zombie referee in the match between Dexter and Cameron Grimes. I was unfortunately sad that Cameron Grimes wasn't in either of these segments. I thought it really would have been great to see that him interact with the zombie referee again now, a year out, as opposed to just as they have been throughout the year. There's a lot of fun stuff that happens in these. They run into a bunch of people. There's a lot of jump scare moments where they think these are mannequins, but they're real people. The little boy that Carmelo Hayes somehow thinks is Johnny Gargano, leading me to my joke about Johnny Gargano wearing Dexter's Loomis's clothes in children's sizes. We'll get to that, Dara. I'm not putting it on the screen, but we will get to it as we keep talking. So then the first one pretty much breaks right about there. Johnny and Dexter make their jokes, and then they go to commercial. When we come back to the haunted house later on, they're in there. They're still looking through the house. They end up with talking to more people. More people are talking to them at this point, as opposed to just jump scares. They go into a ballroom where they have to enter the ball, and there's all kinds of people in there. At one point, they do say, and cut to the chase. And yes, as Dara Amazing says, and then we got Andre Chase. I think I popped a little too hard in the group chat about seeing Andre Chase sitting in the corner. But it was fantastic because he's such a goofball that he works so well in this segment. Trick and Mello think that they've gotten their comeuppance on Johnny and them by having him led. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. It's right. No. Somebody is chasing us. Did somebody say Andre Chase? By the way, there were 2 people in the crowd wearing Chase University t-shirts, as Cody had mentioned before. So that movement is already starting. There was also a lot of Nexus shirts in the crowd tonight behind Wade Barrett.
Yeah, nicely situated.
I thought WWE did a real good job putting them in the perfect spot for that one, having them right behind Wade. So we continue with now a 3-man group of our 3-man band, if you will, of Mello, Trick, and Andre. And Andre's leading them. He's navigating because he brought his students to the show. Why you would bring your students to the haunted house, I don't know. I really think most of the people who were the students were the people who were making up the random people talking to them, which was great. But this was absolutely one of the best cinematics that they've done. I guarantee you this was a Jeremy Borash thing, and it was absolutely phenomenal. Top to bottom, this was all laughs. Is there anything I missed that you wanted to note on, Astrid, for the Carmelo Hayes stuff?
Yeah, I love when they're on the way to getting the championship, and Trick goes, "I'll get you a replica," and then he goes, "I don't want a replica. I want my own with the same place."
I did forget that one. Yeah, I mean, it's just.
Yeah, I think that's all I had for that one.
There was so much good stuff, and I agree. I liked this. I would have really preferred a match too. I agree, Tim. That being said, I think you can save that match. You don't want to just blow that 1 week into the feud. I thought this was a really good spot to do something fun for Halloween because you can't do this spot anywhere else. So I think it makes sense to have Johnny come out, take the title, have them a reason for them to have to go to the haunted house, and then go ahead and have the match. Because you set up the match really well. We're at the end. Johnny and Dexter are, behind them, and Johnny goes boo, and they run off with the title after getting punched in the face.
Yeah, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, this is the part where he goes, "Oh, your place is weird. Next year we'll do Halloween at my place." And then they hold,
and then everybody holds up the thumbs up. Oh, it shows how well cinematic matches and cinematic segments can work when you're letting the show be kind of campy and funny and you're not taking it super seriously. And you could tell right from the get-go that this show is like, we understand we're going to embrace our campiness and our fun. With, having only one entrance for the initial match because they wanted to capitalize on that 30 minutes commercial free, which, by the way, they went 31 minutes and then hit the commercial. So they were right on that 30 minutes. Cody's saying we're getting the tag match next week. We've already had 4 title matches on this show. You do have to save something going. I agree. There's always a reason to save something going forward. Again, like I said, it was just that this show was just too perfect to have this segment on this show. I don't know why, but I always wanted to see a pumpkin match. I do too. That would have been cool. I was hoping for a Buried Alive or something, or a casket match. I almost thought we were getting Biker Chain for the tag match, but we didn't. So we're going to continue going through the show because we've kind of talked about segments as they come. We're now introduced to the host of the show, Grayson Waller, which really made me sad, where he announces that LA Knight's not going to be here. We do get to see LA Knight later for one segment, but I liked how Grayson handled this. It made it seem like, LA Knight had some kind of issues. Might have been Grayson's fault. Who knows? But Grayson takes the chance to steal the spotlight. As he's doing his thing out on the ramp, he's interrupted by Joe Gacy, who goes ahead and trashes Halloween. Boo Gacy. Thumbs down for Gacy. Jay Quick, yes. Me and Tom talked about this on our show when somebody else brought it up. If you have him do signer math, it takes away from the ability of him to be his own man. What they should do is what Tom came up with, which I think is a great idea, is somebody asks him a question in an interview about his odds. How does he feel about the odds? And he just looks at them with the Braun Breaker look and walks away. You give the nod to the Steiner math, and he doesn't take the bait, and he just walks away. I think that's the best way to do it. Oh, no, I didn't want Nightbot. We could get Braun Breaker and Chase U class doing math later. We could. That could be fun. If we get Braun Breaker with Andre Chase, that could be an interesting one, Cody. Oh, And Dara has his thumbs up. He likes that idea. So then Gacy comes out, and he's going to take on Malik Blade. Poor Malik Blade. We see Harland entering the arena. I didn't know it was Harland. I thought it was Michael Myers because they were talking about Halloween Kills, and I'm like, is somebody coming dressed as Michael Myers? But no, it's just Harland. Apparently he doesn't have a last name. I thought I was just forgetting it. They don't mention one ever. So apparently it's just Harland. But Joe Gacy has a quick match. What did you think about this? The Joe Gacy segment before the match itself, and then Harland after the match.
Yeah, I really thought it was a Michael Myers thing because of the commentary as well. I didn't like how when he was doing his finisher, they missed the camera shot and they put the camera shot on Malik instead of Gacy, so you didn't see him do his finisher, just landing on Malik at the end. And I'm like, that was like a miss there. But then in the replay, they played it the whole way. But yeah, aside from that, the part where he just like looking at him and the way he touches him, he's like, trust me, like don't do this, and the violence comments and things like that. But like Tim, I was like, I like the creepiness, but aside from that, I'm just like, I don't know how I feel about Gacy yet, so I'm still feeling it. So we'll see how it goes.
The thing with Gacy that I give them credit for is while you don't have to know how you feel about it, you can take it for what it's worth and make him a heel, or because he's not out now to heel. So like it's great because it's letting the crowd kind of do their own thing with it. If you like it, great. If you don't, great. They can put him heel, they can put him face. He's a great tweener character. Harland is great fun. Parrish, Cody is on assignment this week. He is in the chat, so you guys can go ahead and make my life miserable in there.
No, don't look over there.
I have to run the chat.
No.
But that being said, I liked the stuff with Gacy and I liked the stuff with Harland. I'm interested to see where it keeps going. I love to hate on Joe Gacy's character because I think it's silly to have somebody who wants the ring to be a safe space in a wrestling environment. I like that they're doing it because it's not fully attacking these people because he's playing it as a serious character. He's playing it as seriously as he can be. They're not making it, a joke, which I think is really, really great. Jay Quick says, why does Grayson Waller sound like the name of a country music star? It really does. And the Australian guy doesn't fit the country western superstar. Tim says, creepiness wise, he reminds me of Marty the Moth from Lucha Underground. That's not a bad shout. Marty the Moth from Lucha Underground was really interesting. I really enjoyed his work down there. Lucha Underground is your own interesting love or hate it kind of thing. I don't think there's anybody who has a middle ground on what they thought of Lucha Underground. There's some really good stuff there. But back to this show. We then get the Kaylee Ray promo where she bashes 2.0 for not having her on the show for 4 weeks. Thank you for realizing at NXT and going, look, we're going to push her. Don't worry. She's here. She's mad. She's angry. I loved it. As Cody said in the chat, what did that microwave do to Kaylee Ray? She broke everything, but that microwave suffered the most. We have Cody jumping in saying he's loving the Gacy character, but he's not too sure about Harland's role. I like it all. I'm willing to give it the benefit of the doubt because at least it's interesting. They're doing something with these guys. They're giving him a role. They're pushing him. They're giving him TV time. It's hard to argue with TV time. Ashton, I'm going to let you talk about. Did you want to talk about the first party segment, or did you have this stuff written down?
A little bit of it.
Okay, I'll fill in some of the gaps.
Yeah, the part with like Jiro and Kushida, how they have an idea and they ran off, and I was like, oh no, what are these two thinking?
So first, before that though, when we're talking about those two, remember that they don't get Halloween, and they're talking to Grayson. And they're like, "This is crazy. You just send kids to you send kids to strangers' house to get candy." Oh, it was so funny that these two guys didn't get it. And then poor Grayson, this isn't going to make him any more friends, especially with Josh Robinson, who has already come out on record on his Twitter and saying he is not a fan of Grayson Waller. Saying, damn foreigners. I wasn't too thrilled with that line, but I'll let it slide. But it wasn't a great line. We then have in that party segment, we have JBBJ drinking as lumberjacks. We have Cora Jade dressed as the devil.
Yeah.
Again, we had Grayson Waller say hi to her and her give him the stink eye. I don't get it. It's got to be leading to something, I would imagine, between him and Trey.
Yeah.
But this is the second time now where we've seen him innocently say hello to her and her give him the cold shoulder.
And I think this was the part that it was like Lash was talking to Tony, or was that later on? I don't remember if it was there.
That's later on in the next one, yeah. Mm-hmm. But we do have in this segment, we do see Tony D. Tony D'Angelo is there in his best tracksuit mafia, which I thought was great. And Grayson Waller comes up and does his, "Oh, Tony, it's so good to see you." And Tony goes ahead and calls him a bloodsucker, which is interesting because he's dressed like Dracula.
Maybe Tony helped Grayson with the car situation.
Maybe. Very possible. We then have Frankie asking Grayson Waller to get away from her, which I thought was great. Yes. Frankie Monet in the military gear. Yes. Completely big timing Grayson Waller and telling him to get out of her face. We then have Waller come up to some women and start to hit on them. And as soon as they do, Cameron Grimes comes in. And I'm going to put it out because it was a comment from earlier. Where's Cody's comment from earlier? Here it is. Grimes was too busy in his NASA spacesuit heading to the moon and risking all his money in the poker room. So yes, Cameron Grimes comes up and tries to hit on the women. He does some kind of weird extraterrestrial line.
Yeah.
He could have just said, "to the moon."
I wrote it down because it just stood out to me. He said, "I went to outer space because I see some extraterrestrials." And I was like, no. I could have went that line.
This is also from the next segment, which we'll get to later on in the show. But yes, Robert Stone was Elvis, indeed. So then we get to Diamond Mine, cutting a great promo from what I thought was backstage originally until they really started walking. And I realized it was the actual ring, like the front of the ringside apron and ramp area. And they cut a promo and they say it's an open challenge. You can get knocked out by Ivy. You can get dominated by the Creed brothers, or you can get pummeled by Roderick Strong. Who comes out to answer it? But Odyssey Jones, to which Wade Barrett thought this was a terrible idea. And he challenges, we think it's going to be one of the Creeds, but it turns out to be Roddy. And they have a really good, fun match. Now, you, me, and Cody all agreed that this was a good spot for Roderick Strong to take an L and go ahead and just let Odyssey Jones get the win. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen. Give me your thoughts on this Diamond Mine Open Challenge with Odyssey Jones and Roderick Strong.
I mean, first, how could we miss the joke about Jones not being 205, even though he was advertised for 205 Live? So I like how Malcolm started with that one and then joked around about it. But I think, if I'm not mistaken, there was one of the times that Odyssey was putting Roddy over, and then Beth said Roddy's getting his freaking flyer miles, and I was like, sorry, working in the airline, that was funny to me, so I had to write it down when it stood out to me. But yeah, it was a good back and forth. I liked how it gave us a little bit more of Odyssey that we usually don't get from him. Like, his matches have been kind of short to me so far, so I mean, this is probably been his longest match so far, if I'm not mistaken. But I feel like it highlighted him a lot during the match, back and forth, and it was really good, at least in my opinion. Obviously, Roddy won because of the distraction from the Creed brothers, but aside from that, it was a really good back and forth for me.
Yeah, I loved how snug that knee to the face at the very end of the match was too. It made it really feel like it was understandable that Roderick Strong could take down a big guy like Odyssey Jones when he hit that ever-loving knee to the face. Like, it sounded great. It looked snug, like he hit him right in the throat. I like how they're keeping Roddy Strong. I would have loved to have seen Odyssey get the win here. It would have made a lot of sense. You could have explained it away that, it's an open challenge. He's not 205. So Roderick Strong is maintaining his, stranglehold on the cruiserweight division because he doesn't fit the gimmick. But Odyssey had a good match and he lost. That's not necessarily the end of the world. He wasn't squashed. And it was just another point of a veteran and a 2.0 guy, and continuing this push of these 2.0 guys not always winning, but having good matches. And again, this match was pretty lengthy for what we've been getting on 2.0. I think this match lasted about 6 to 8 minutes. Dara says, were people allowed to pick Bivens for the open challenge? No, unfortunately not. Although I bet Tyler Breeze would have shown up if that were the case, based on the stuff from their whatchamacallit, their general manager mode, if you've watched Up, Up, Down, Down. And they're keeping Roddy strong. I honestly didn't even think about it. I was just going with it, but thank you, thank you, Jay Quick, for that. I didn't even think they were keeping Roddy strong. Wow. Poet, and I didn't even know it. Oh, God, I can't believe I did that one. I would love to see someone pick Hachiman for an open challenge. I'd love to see him wrestle. I don't know if he's medically cleared or what his thing is. I would assume he might get involved at some point. I looked up his stuff, interestingly enough, because I was interested in him. A lot of All Japan stuff, things that I didn't know about, some big names. Seems like he was a big name over there in Japan, so I'm excited to see if they ever let him loose in the ring, what it looks like. I liked how they made it seem like, Roddy can only handle these small guys, but any gaps that Roddy might have, Hachiman has been through all of this great stuff, so he can fill those gaps. I like how they're continuing to make him a person in this, as opposed to just being a body on the outside. So Hachiman is still very much integral in this. We then get Mandy Rose entering as a Dark Angel. I was told to calm down in the chat. And then we come back to the party segment. This is where we have Lash and Tony, where Lash says that's fine. Tony can be on her show next week. So we're going to get Lash Legend lashing out with Tony D'Angelo. Forget about it. It'll be fantastic. We get Von Wagner as Brad Pitt with Kyle, and as I said, directly from my notes, with some crap mustache. I don't know. I think he was wearing it backwards. I don't know what was up with Kyle's mustache. It looked awful. Grimes is there, and he's being consoled by Duke Hudson about the women walking away. And Duke asks him if he still has the money, and he goes, of course I have the money. Do you still have the cards? And Duke says, and then so now they're going to meet in the poker room next week. Hopefully, Cameron Grimes doesn't lose all his money to Duke Hudson. I have a bad feeling Cameron Grimes is going to lose all his money to Duke Hudson. We then have Zion Quinn being accosted by Elvis, otherwise known as Rob Stone. And Rob Stone goes through a table hard. Good job by Zion.
Must go down.
Yeah, but Zion Quinn did great, and Frankie Monet just walks away. We then get the street fight. Oh, no more Butler, especially not for that guy. It was fine with LA Knight because LA Knight was interesting. Duke will just have him be a butler as opposed to having him do stupid stuff. So we can't have that. Josh Robinson in the chat. Thank you, Josh. We have our trick or street fight, yes, as picked by Chucky. And yes, Josh, it did slap. It was really, really good. These women went out and killed it in this match. And I'm going to let Astrid take over from here, as Chucky's choice was the landed on by the wheel. It was obviously stopped, but it was definitely Josh is saying hi to all his fans in the chat, which is always good because Josh is fantastic. By the way, quick plug for Josh. Look out for his new series starting where he's going to be talking about women on the cusp of great things. He posted a bunch of wonderful pictures, and if all of those women are the ones in these shows, I can't wait to check them out. Those will be coming in the place of the legacy ofs in the weeks to come. So very, very excited to see what Josh is capable of with these next things. Sorry, Astrid, I apologize for cutting you off.
No, but from this one, I was thinking like the candlestick shots from Mandy to Raquel. That was like, I couldn't believe it when I saw them. I don't know if this was from my point of view, but I felt like there was one of the spots that Raquel looks like she was looking for a weapon down in the ring. and then it looks like she couldn't like really find anything. She kind of went like this, and then Mandy just went back and took the candlestick and just went back to hitting her with them. I don't know, maybe there's something that was missed, and then just like Mandy took whatever she found the quickest and kept going with that, just to like fill in the spot and keep going. Because that's what it felt like to me. I feel like there was something missing in that part. Um, and then when Raquel's sitting on the chair, Mandy hits her with the knee. That was like, what? And that was probably one of my favorite parts. And when she does it, obviously in the ring as well, and in the apron, she hits another knee when she's in the apron. I was like, "Geez, what is this mandate? What was this mandate this whole time in the main roster?" That was my main question. Because how do you see her on NXT like this, and the main roster, she basically did none of this, in my opinion. At least, just like, and do you think this is her first championship? It's incredible because I feel like she's been there for so long, and she's never had an opportunity like this. So it makes me glad that she's in NXT, like basically polishing herself and revitalizing her character. Obviously we get that mystery person that was in the vignette, so the past like 2 weeks or so. I figured by the silhouette it was Dakota, but I just wanted to see it play and wait to see what happens. But yeah, it was Dakota. She hit Raquel with the shovel, so obviously knee to the face, and then obviously now Mandy wins. So Toxic Attraction, they're all champions now.
It was great. It was fantastic. One of my favorite spots, like you talked about, using the kendo stick on Beth's chair to pin her down. Raquel almost getting up and then getting hit with that knee was great. Throwing Raquel headfirst into the bottom side of the steel steps was a really, really cool, interesting, and different way to use the steps. I was surprised that they did it that way. That's not normally how you use the steps. It's a bit dangerous as those are a bit jagged on the inside. I'm glad it worked out. I'm glad she did it without Toxic Attraction. We were talking in the chat that it looked like in the beginning of the match that Mandy might need Toxic Attraction to kind of help even this out. But it did just take one shovel shot from Dakota Kai and her hooded Grim Reaper gimmick to go ahead and turn the tides. But an absolutely incredible match between Mandy Rose and Raquel Gonzalez. Can't say enough good things about these two absolutely killing it. Probably would have been match of the night had it not been for the tag match that followed it. It really probably would have been my match of the night because they absolutely tore it up and they had time. The one thing I will continue to bat on this thing, this NXT show literally was paced perfectly. Every segment felt like it had just the right amount of time. The backstage stuff with Chucky, the pre-match segments with Chucky, all the cinematic stuff, the party stuff in the back, all of the goofy stuff with Grayson Waller throughout the show. Everything was just timed perfectly. All the matches felt like they were, about 10 minutes or more, especially for the ones that were the title matches that were advertised. Really, really good. Cody brings it up, and I'm going to pop it up on the screen one more time. Raquel looked like a badass at the bike entrance. It would have been much better in her black gear. The green gear was a bit odd, but I didn't hate it. I think that Raquel could use with toning down the back stuff because I think she's lost some mass in her back where she used to, when she was with Dakota, it felt like there was a lot more to it. Like it felt like, and I feel like as she's been going, she's been slimming down a bit, and I think she's slimming down a little too much. I think she's losing a bit of muscle mass, and but that's my only critique of her because she's had a fantastic run as champion. I think she'll have another. To be honest, I think she's due another title run at some point down the line.
No, and I know this, obviously the NXT Championship is supposed to be the main event, but I would have loved for Toxic Attraction to end what they did with Mandy in the middle and them celebrating. Like ending the show like that would have been perfectly fine with me. But obviously we had the guys' main event, but I'm like, that would have been just the nicest shot right there, all the girls. But,
yeah. And I don't disagree. I think that would have been a great way to end it. I don't think that the main event wasn't better. But I also don't feel like the main event needed to go any further down the card. I felt like the women getting that first, that top of the hour spot at 9:00, really bringing in when you have most of your fans still there. They had an important spot there as they, went from the 8 to the 9:00 hour. But it was a really good one. Before we go to the next segment, well, we had the haunted house segment, the second portion, which is them finally getting the title. And then the stuff with Dexter and them. Before we get to Grayson Waller putting over his social media, Dara has a question for both of us. So I'm going to have you go first. If you were to make your own Halloween stipulated match, what would it be?
Oh my goodness. That's a good one. I have no idea, to be honest.
I'm gonna take the easy way out. I'm gonna say casket match because I like going to bed. And I feel a little bit like a Yokozuna. I'm a bigger guy. I'm a bigger guy for those who don't know. So I feel a kinship with Yokozuna, and I grew up watching those early segments with Taker making the double wide, double deep casket specifically for Yoko. It was a really cool visual to see that big, massive casket being rolled out, and that was during my most formidable time as a wrestling fan growing up. So I would say the casket match because it really brought me into the world of wrestling.
I don't know if I would call it Halloween, but I say something like Buried Alive, something like that. That would be
that's
especially
definitely
for some
Halloween
ladies.
themed.
So especially for the ladies.
I would love. I almost thought we were going to get a Buried Alive match. It looked like it might tick over to the Buried Alive for the tag team match. That kid would have been in a lot of trouble if that match had been a Buried Alive match. They were not ready for that. So then we get Grayson Waller putting over his social media before he's interrupted finally by the official host of the show, L.A. Knight. And it's his game. It's L.A. Knight's game. And they start arguing back and forth, and Grayson Waller says, well, I just wanted to make sure that we didn't lose the show after your car trouble. To which LA Knight says, who told you it was car trouble? To which Grayson starts to backtrack. And then we get the debut of Solo Sikoa. I'm glad they pronounced it a couple times so I could hear it, so I know how I'm supposed to pronounce it. But Solo Sikoa looks incredible. He looks like a mix between Chuck Liddell and Samoa Joe. He really does. With that bleach blonde hair, he looks like a Chuck Liddell or a Tito Ortiz. Yes, as we said in the chat, Uso. But the third Uso looks incredible. What did you think of the brief glimpse that we got of the third Uso?
Yeah, I was hoping we'll get, even if it was some sort of squash match with him. So I was hoping for a little bit more. But aside from that, he looks good. So I'm excited to see him. Hopefully next week he wrestles. Like they didn't announce much for next week. So that's what I'm looking forward to. And they do have him wrestle next week. But yeah, other than that, I feel like he shined. And obviously the crowd was already chanting Uso when they saw him. So I thought it was obviously the nice timing that they did. And they didn't change, like they didn't do anything to the chants so we could hear them, which I'm like, thank God. I'm glad they did.
Yeah. As Cody brings up, next week with Solo versus Grayson would be fun. I agree. I think that might be his first feud. I also wanted to bring this in. Cody brought it into our Slack chat, and I'm going to bring it into the stream, even though he didn't want to. I apparently overestimated the times on these matches by a bit. I'm assuming these all come from Cage Match, which we can take, give or take a little bit. But we have 12 minutes and 24 seconds for the women's tag ladder match. Roddy versus Odyssey apparently was only 3 minutes and 37 seconds. Felt longer. Really did feel like it was a lot longer than 3:37. The women's title match was apparently just shy of 12 minutes at 11:55. The Lumberjack match, which we'll get to in just a moment, was 13:11. And then the NXT title match was given 13:50. So the women were definitely not shortchanged on time. I mean, their matches are a touch shorter than the two main event type men's matches that were on the card.
Hey, it's better than what we get on Raw and SmackDown right now.
I was gonna say, but at least they're both 10 plus. I mean, we're talking about almost 12 minutes each match. None of these matches felt like they were really short. Like even hearing Roddy versus Odyssey at 3:37 doesn't feel like it was given no time. Doesn't feel like it was short. It felt like it got the time it deserved. We then had a funny thing that I noticed. I don't know if you noticed it. Braun Breaker, you're working out in the back before his match with Chucky sitting in the locker. Just perfection. I don't know if Braun Breaker was a Chucky fan growing up, but that was great. We then get the fan of the night. I honestly didn't write his name down because I didn't care.
It was Alex.
Alex, okay. Alex, the fan of the night, in his mask. Good for Alex, being safe. I like that. He spins the wheel to make the deal for the tag teams, and they get the Jack-o'-lantern handicap. Lumberjack-o'-lantern match. Yes, they're amazing. Bringing in with Astrid, it was definitely Alex was the fan. I couldn't care less.
That's why I'm here, to take the backup notes.
Exactly. Just take the backup notes for him. It's going to get real interesting because after this, apparently, I have nothing. MSK versus Imperium was absolutely fantastic. I really, really loved this match. This is my match of the night. But Astrid, I want to go to you first, as I should. Tell me about your thoughts about the Lumberjacks. Was it too distracting having so many Lumberjacks and so many costumes? And what did you think of the match as a whole?
I felt like at first it was kind of distracting because I was trying to figure out who was who around the ring. And I feel like obviously they moved the camera so much that it kept me guessing. I was like, never mind. I'm not going to keep guessing. I'm like, but what really, what was my highlight for this match was like Wes's offense was incredible tonight. I feel like this is the most I've seen him wrestle probably in a while. And every one of his moves, I'm like, I can't even keep up with him to keep up notes. So I really barely have notes for this match. But when he goes over all the Lumberjacks, I was like, dude, like, where have you been? It was so incredible to watch him like that. But yeah, I loved every part of it. And then obviously the spot with Fabian having them both on his back like that, and obviously doing the squats. I was like, that was incredible to me. Obviously, like most people, when the Lumberjacks clear, and I was expecting Walter to come in. I'm surprised he didn't. But either way, I'm glad Imperium won without any help.
Yeah, I was really surprised to see Imperium win. I thought it would have been MSK. The one thing I will note is while Reddit may not be the place that has the most knowledgeable people when it comes to the world of wrestling, I'll be honest, there's a lot of terrible things on Reddit that aren't true. Whether that's true or not, it sounded like whoever used to be booing MSK out of love and devotion for those who no longer attend NXT events. It was nice to see the crowd fully behind MSK tonight. As Cody said in our chat, they were a little quiet, but they were up and at them. And I think that was because WWE wasn't sure what they were going to get. So they turned the crowd mic down. But you could see how excited the crowd was for their entrance. They were up. They were excited. They were, shaking their hands and stuff like that. You could tell they were into it. MSK put on a fantastic show. Nash Carter at one point does that bulldog off the top rope. There's a pile of bodies for him to land on. Nash misses all of them. Like the other guy, thank God for Marcel Bartel, lands into the crowd of people. Nash Carter does not, and he hits hard on that outside. This was fantastic. They fought it out tooth and nail. I was very surprised to see Imperium win since they had just lost not too long ago. But as my notes say, MSK Tag Lumberjack match was incredible and new Imperium. So congratulations to Imperium shaking up the tag division. It means I think we're going to get teams like JBBJ. It means we're going to get teams like
GYV,
MSK. I don't think JYV is going to, unless they turn them face, but I don't think Imperium's a team that you would turn GYV face for. You could get people to cheer them, but it's interesting. You could go heel versus heel there, I guess. But with babyface tag teams, I think you're limited to. I think we're going to see JBBJ in the not too distant future lining up with Imperium, which will be fun to watch. I'm sure Cody will be very excited as he's in our chat, and he's a very big JBBJ fan. And then after this, we had the main event. We're flying through this show, but that's fine. This show flew. I didn't notice how quickly this show was going. It was absolutely fantastic. We had Chucky doing introductions for both competitors. They had video packages for both Ciampa and for Braun Breaker done by Chucky. Braun Breaker is an absolute star. There's no ifs or buts about it at this point. if you don't see the star in Braun Breaker, you're literally not looking hard enough. Look past the 2Ks, look past the attire, look past the fact that his name isn't Steiner on TV like it might be, should be. This dude is got the whole package. What did you think of this main event?
If I'm not mistaken, maybe it could have been Beth, but I like how they said, "Oh, something about a genetic freak," and I was like, "I see what you did there." And I saw that Spencer tweeted about it, so I was like, "Yeah, I'm not the only one that like popped for that one." But other than that, I'm like, it was a good back and forth. I enjoyed it. I even take notes for it because I also concentrated watching it, and it kept me at the edge of my seat because I'm thinking, are we gonna go all new champions tonight? That was my mindset all along. I'm like, are we finally gonna have all new champions all in like that same night? But yeah, other than that, I'm like, they did really good. I was only obviously expecting Braun to win with the way they were pushing him already. So I wonder how it goes, like storyline wise, for him to win that championship. Are they just gonna have him do a rematch and then he wins it, or maybe his own night, so he only gets to be the only new champion that one night, make it special for him? But other than that, I'm like, I'm waiting to see for the day he becomes champion already.
Yeah, I was very interested. I was focused on Braun Breaker in this match. Tommaso Ciampa did everything he could to make him look like a star. Ciampa's the consummate professional here. I'm excited to see where Ciampa goes next. I think this was great for Braun Breaker. You gave him this catapult to the top, and now you can easily see him in the mix with the Kyle O'Reillys and the Pete Dunnes, and when he's back, the Samoa Joes and the LA Knights and the Cameron Grimes. Braun Breaker is now a main event star. You don't need to push him back down to the mid card, and he's not going to be feuding with Carmelo Hayes. He's going to be in that main event type picture where he's going to be having feuds with main event stars. Right out the gate, I think it's Pete Dunne. I think his next match is Pete Dunne. And I think he might even lose that feud too. But Braun Breaker got as much as he could out of this run. It's been 5 weeks, I think, 6 weeks. And he came from absolutely nowhere to an absolute star. I couldn't see anything. I couldn't see anything more wonderful about him. This was great. The blood just added to it because WWE doesn't do blood a lot anymore. His mouth bleeding, his face bleeding from the fairy tale end, not from the fairy tale ending, the Willow's Bell on the outside. It's just absolutely fantastic. Cody said in our Slack chat, and I'll repeat it again, this was a great night for 2.0. For the people, for those 2.0 wrestlers to really get their name out there and reset NXT. To be like, no, this isn't about the stars you're used to. This is about the new generation, the new wave of stars. And while it would have been nice to have had that, cemented with Braun Breaker at the top, I think you did as much as you needed to do to make us know that 2.0 is not your grandma's NXT, because they love that 50 demographic, let's be honest. And there's always NXT grandma, who I miss seeing at NXT shows, and I wish she was there again.
Well, Anita, yeah.
I do miss Anita. I call her NXT grandma because that's what I remember her as. I want to go back to something because you wrote it in the chat because I didn't write it down in my notes. There was a great Imperium backstage promo where they spoke in all German and Italian, which was great. I thought it was ironic, though, because they said we're going to go to a live look of Martel and them. And then they had subtitles for the foreign language, which was really convenient considering they were cutting the promo as they spoke. No, obviously it was a pre-taped promo where they could go ahead and get it. But I liked it because it was Imperium saying we don't need Walter. Even though Walter's not here, which I thought was a double turn. I thought it was a swerve. Walter's not here. Don't worry about Walter. Don't ask us about Walter. Because the question was literally about Walter. Like, no. Don't worry about Walter. Dar Amazing saying that part was okay. I agree. It wasn't a highlight, but it wasn't bad. I like that they're getting the chance to speak in their own language, which makes them feel more comfortable. Bartel looks so much more comfortable speaking on the microphone when he gets to speak in German. I think it's German. I'm almost certain it's German. I know Fabian Eichner is Italian, but I want to say that Marcel Bartel is speaking in German. That being said, that was NXT tonight. It was a really, really quick show. It didn't take long. I mean, it was the 2 hours, but it didn't feel like a normal 2.0 where they have 70 segments crammed into 120 minutes. Scripted promos are scripted. Yeah, but you never know what the guys are going to say that might be different. I agree. A scripted promo is a scripted promo, and you can just kind of put it up there.
Yeah, I just feel like it's special when you do it in your own native language. Because like, if I get to speak Spanish wherever I could go, I would do it, or at least my Spanglish. So at least it makes it feel special that you get to express yourself more freely that way, and I like that about them.
Well, if you want to speak Spanish, go ahead and do some of the rest of the show in Spanish if you want. I'll pretend like I understand and nod my head, like I do when Asuka starts yelling in Japanese, and I go, right, Asuka, good job. I love it when she does it, though. Like, I just nod my head and go,
Whatever you said, that was awesome.
Yes, exactly, Asuka, exactly. I don't know what you're saying, but yes, that's exactly what it was.
Good luck with that.
I mean, she's here without her social media supervisor, so
yeah, I was gonna say Mike Caleb is fired.
Yeah, her Cody NXT is fired. We'll have to get a new fill-in for that one. He's missed 2 shows because he missed the reaction. Oh god, we're going off the. I might be nitpicking, but I wish the weapons. I don't disagree. That would have been a little bit better in the Trick or Street fight. But I think that's really a main roster thing, where they themed the weapons to the things. I don't disagree that it would have been fun to have some of them, but like I don't need to see pumpkins and I don't need to see stuff like that. Fail.
Oh, I can just imagine the girls hitting each other with a pumpkin, and it doesn't look as good as a candlestick. So just like, it depends.
Yeah, I mean, even if the kendo sticks were orange this week, like maybe that would have been a little bit better. But no, I mean, it's a nitpick, but I think it's a fair nitpick. WWE is accustomed us to when we get to
the little details.
The holiday shows where they always have the holiday themed, the Miracle on 34th Street fight. On the main roster, if this was a Halloween show, there would have been pumpkin pies and jack-o'-lanterns and all kinds of stuff like that. I like how NXT makes this feel more down and gritty, and they like I said, they went with the campy with everything when it came to Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams and everything like that. It was a really, really good show. Will NXT do a Thanksgiving themed episode? They might. They're on a Tuesday of Thanksgiving Day week. I wouldn't put it past them to do something like that. That being said, we will have to wait and see. The Gravy Bowl. I think this is more of an Impact thing, the Gravy Bowl, because I know. Well, no, because Impact for years used to do the turkey shoot.
That's what I remember.
It's one of my I just want to make sure I was on the same page here. I'm like, oh, the turkey suit, like that, because they for years it was
the turkey hanging from the top.
Yeah, and then whoever lost the match had to put on the turkey costume that they claim that they never washed. I remember Eric Young wore it at least once or twice.
I think AJ did once, maybe.
Yeah, I think he might have. I know EC3 did because he was very unhappy about wearing it. The turkey bowl and doing the turkey trot. Well, that's pretty much it for this week for NXT. A quick show for a great show. WWE, I'll read Cody's wing. Make sure I click the right one. WWE always did it too with bra and panties matches in the gravy. Yeah, that was a different time. I'm glad we're past the mud wrestling and the gravy and all that kind of stuff. As entertaining as it can be, it's not. It had its own special time. Yes, Glenn Gilbarty did wear it as the Disco Inferno. Yes,
I mean, I have no memory of that one.
Impact did a lot of crazy things, and there were a lot of people in Impact that you don't remember from the old days.
I chose not to remember this one.
Well, I mean, nobody wants to remember the Disco Inferno. I mean, he wasn't even the best dancing gimmick in TNA. I mean, in Impact, in WCW, because better than him was Alex Wright, Das Wunderkind, and then you still had Ernest Miller at one point, who was the karate guy, but then he had somebody call my mama, and he was dancing, and that was really his WWE career. But same difference. He's still better than. But anyways, not getting distracted by the comments tonight. Ashton, I'm going to give you the big screen. What else you got going on this week?
Let me think about it. No, I'm kidding. No, Astro Week is over. I'm glad. I'm done. I'm tired. I need rest. No, we have a Saturday React show that we have with Ed and maybe Parrish and Alex, like usually we do, and maybe Cody if he decides to join us. If you guys go on Twitter, I was in the Power episode earlier on today with Zach. So if you want to go into our Twitter and watch that, we watched the ladies show that we had tonight. It was really, really good. I really enjoyed it. So I check that out if you can. And obviously my Astrid Ass is still on YouTube. So if you guys want to go back and watch it, just like the Knockouts Knockdown reacts, any kind of views I'll get, I'll take them. And obviously when I'm about here, I'm on Twitter chatting about the wrestling stuff that I usually watch. And then obviously being back here in NXT next week again. So we can get back to a regular scheduled program. And maybe our guests will probably say something.
Maybe. And you can find me at edfries12584 on Twitter. You can find me moderating the Tom Collihue Twitch channel. I joined him earlier today, so if you go on there on his Twitch channel, you can watch the video on demand of our preview show for the NXT show that we had tonight. It was a fun little time talking with Tom. I'm hoping to do more work with him in the coming weeks and months as we continue to grow his thing and get me out there into different places. So, popping up on Tom's things and other avenues for other shows will be greatly appreciated. Otherwise, I will be back here next Tuesday night with Cody and Astrid doing more NXT. But with that, we've pretty much hit everything on NXT. Is there anything left that we need to talk about with you, Astrid? Anything left on NXT? Anything to pick off the bone?
No, I'm just excited to see what happens next week because I feel like they only did 2 announcements. They only did the Dexter and Gargano versus Trick Mello, and then Cameron doing the poker thing with Duke Hudson. So other than that, we basically have nothing for next week, which is surprising after the show tonight. So we'll just see what happens next week.
And to answer your question, Dar Amazing, because it's a really good one, who will be on Quizplex?
Tune in.
It's a secret, aka they didn't tell us. It's none of us from the Love Wrestling thing. I know that because we were told that we could put our questions in the Love Wrestling Slack chat. So that means none of the people on the show are part of the team. So I know that for certain. Yes, Daddy Ciampa does win, and that is all that matters. I did write Daddy in my notes again this week. Yes, really, there's nobody from Love Wrestling. See, what it is normally they don't want us on the show because it makes it really hard for them to be able to produce the show and get the questions asked and get the order for the questions once we have the questions. Because like when I was on it for the Champions Edition, we'll do a little behind the scenes. Zach had to deal with all of the questions things in his own DMs because I have access to the Slack chat. So unless they're going to create a secret group that I'm not a part of, they have to go ahead and just do it that way. The really fun part was when Zach realized that I have access to all the production. And as the show's getting ready to go on the air, he asks me, hey, Ed, 1, don't go on Twitch today because he knows I normally go on Twitch and watch the show there. And 2, don't go into any of the production stuff because all the questions and answers are there. So that's a little bit behind the scenes. As to what goes on. So they try to get people from outside Love Wrestling. So Dara, I would go ahead and at some point talk to Spencer or talk to Zach and figure out if you can go ahead because I'm sure we'd love to have you on at some point because you are such a diehard Love Wrestling fan. I know you caught the very end of my preview this afternoon with Tom. But that being said, I've been Ed. This has been Astrid. And this was NXT for Halloween Havoc. Goodbye. Don't try to leave the chat again.